my question to you is, when were you negotiating for your multi-million-dollar advance deal for your book as seniors were dying in nursing homes? That is the question in front of you.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering.
America.
Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. I bet a lot of you guys showed up this morning to get my hot take from last night's presidential debate. And you're sort of right. You're just a little early for it. We're not doing it in this video, but we are going to be discussing it tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time when me and my best bud Ross Galloway, we go behind enemy lines. Tune into our weekly live show. It's sure to be a doozy this week, talking about that presidential debate, as well as commemorating September 11th. Don't miss it. Hope to see you guys later tonight. What we are talking about in this video is this irredeemable buffoon, Andrew Cuomo. I talk about him extensively in my book, Schnooks, Crooks, Lies, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons, that's available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. I call him irredeemable because of the damage he did not only to his own personal political legacy, but how he infected those around him, like his brother, like his chief of staff, like other people that worked on his coronavirus task force. You guys may recall the stories from 2021 and beyond of Andrew Cuomo fudging numbers about COVID deaths in nursing homes, about his March 2020 directive requiring nursing homes to take in infected COVID patients, and they couldn't even test for it. And the Select Committee on the Coronavirus Pandemic brought him into Washington, D.C. to answer questions. And I'm going to show you two rounds of questions from two female New York Republican members of Congress, Elise Stefanik and Nicole Malliotakis. It was high drama at this hearing because many families of those who had relatives pass away as a result of this directive, or at least that's what they say, were in attendance to listen to Governor Andrew Cuomo justify his decisions. What came out of this, in the words of one attendee, is that Cuomo, well, you see it on the screen, he was a lying sack of you-know-what. We're going to go into his testimony and the confrontations by both Stefanik and Malliotakis. But before we get to all that, I'm going to ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. And if you like what you see in here in this or any other video on the channel, I'm going to ask you guys to smash that thumbs up button. Like, comment, share the show with your friends. All that really, really good stuff. Because all that's going to help grow the channel thanks to the YouTube algorithm.
Just feed it.
As always, thank you guys so much for all that you do to help grow the channel. You know I appreciate your efforts so much, whether it's liking, subscribing, or checking out the merch at shop.buffooneroftheweek.com or under the store tab on this channel right here.
This guy is a grifter.
Ex-Governor Andrew Cuomo was branded a lying sack of you-know-what, as you see on the screen, by furious family members and lawmakers as he deflected blame in a very heated hearing yesterday over his disastrous response to the coronavirus, specifically the COVID nursing home order that the governor's office issued in May of 2020. Over the course of the hearing, I'm going to look at parts of it right now. Cuomo refused to apologize, even though he was given the opportunity to do so, to the family members in the room. And by the way, shout out to my friend Tracy Alvino and her organization Voices for Seniors. They were in the room. They experienced it all. I hope to get her on the show really soon to talk about her experiences at this hearing. But for now, let's take a look at the questioning by both Elise Stefanik and Nicole Malliotakis. Those of you who follow the channel may recall that we have featured Elise Stefanik on the channel prior to this video when she was questioning the heads of Ivy League schools about whether or not they would resign or not. She actually got two of them, I think, to resign in the context of school policies towards Jewish students. I'm going to link that video in the upper right-hand corner of the screen right now so you can check it out later. But for now, she is a member of the Select Subcommittee, and being from New York, has a real stake in interrogating Governor Cuomo and explaining to the nation why he is responsible for the deaths of so many in nursing homes during the pandemic. Let's take a look at how she handles this line of questioning.
Thank you, Chairman Wenstrup. Today is long overdue. And just as a reminder for the public tuning in, we are here today on behalf of the over 15,000 vulnerable seniors in nursing homes who died because of Governor Cuomo's fatal executive order on March 25th, damning them to this horrible fate, including constituents in my district and every congressional district in New York State. I also want to recognize the families and advocates who have been working tirelessly on behalf of their loved ones amidst this grief, who have been smeared, attacked, and denigrated by Governor Cuomo and his most senior aides.
Now, I run through a whole timeline of what Elise Stefanik is referring to here in another video that I'm going to put in the upper right-hand corner of the screen right now. It runs through from this March 2020 executive order, what it says, how it was implemented, how it was interpreted by nursing homes, all the way into like June of 2020 when they finally repealed that order. But in the wake of that order, as Congresswoman Stefanik said, there were close to 15,000 deaths in nursing homes, including the parents of a dear friend of mine that I mentioned earlier, Tracy Alvino. This is personal for me because we saw this in real time with Andrew Cuomo and this nursing home order, all while he was on TV promoting himself and how he's handling the pandemic and being on news shows with his brother Chris Cuomo with giant Q-tips and whatever. The Cuomo Brothers Comedy Hour. It was the summer of the Cuomo sexual. If you guys don't remember it, again, it's documented in my book and also in that video that I just showed you in the upper right-hand corner. It's absolutely deplorable. This man promoted and signed a multi-million-dollar book deal while these people were trapped in nursing homes with infected people and ended up passing away. I'm getting choked up right now just talking about it.
Let me begin first. After months of inquiry and investigation, we now know irrefutably what New Yorkers have known for years, that Governor Cuomo himself and his most senior aides ordered, directed, and executed this deadly executive order counter to CMS and CDC guidance. Our investigation also reveals, a bipartisan investigation, that the disgraced former governor and his top aides were caught covering up their culpability and guilt to selfishly save their shredded reputations.
The lowest of the low, contributing nothing to society.
I want to start with the March 25th directive. Isn't it correct, former governor, that Dr. Zucker served as your commissioner of health during the COVID crisis?
Yes.
And you have stated and shared that you have great respect for Dr. Zucker's work and professionalism. You have said that in the past. Is that correct?
I don't know if I've used those words, but I'll take your word for it.
Do
you see what Stefanik is doing here? She's setting the stage for something from Commissioner Zucker's testimony. He was the health commissioner in the People's Republic of New York, setting something up from his testimony to Congress to create the moment of getting Andrew Cuomo in this hearing. Let's see how she sets it up.
Have respect for Dr. Zucker and his professionalism? Yeah. Are you aware that Dr. Zucker testified that the March directive was prompted by a direct request to you, former Governor Cuomo, from the Greater New York Hospital Association? Are you aware of that fact?
I'm not aware of his testimony, no.
Well, that was what he testified to this committee. Dr. Zucker also went on to say, quote, Greater New York Hospital Association called the governor and the team. We were all there in a conversation, end quote. I also want to add, are you aware that another staffer at the Department of Health testified that the March 25th order did receive sign-off from the executive chamber? Are you aware of that fact?
No, I'm aware of the testimony to the exact opposite that you received.
That is incorrect. He said, yes, absolutely.
That's not the testimony that I have before me.
The testimony I
Mr.
have before
Hutton-
me, when he was asked whether the March 25th order was signed off by the executive chamber, the answer was yes, absolutely. And on top of that, Dr. Zucker testified that, quote, everything goes through the governor's office. And by the way, Governor, you and I both know that under your terrible leadership in New York, everything does go through the governor's office. My follow-up is it wasn't just the directive itself, Governor, it was the cover-up.
Let's talk about this testimony for a moment. The subcommittee did issue a memorandum prior to this hearing that did excerpt certain testimony from staffers, including Commissioner Zucker, concerning how this memo, this March 25th, 2020 memo, directing how nursing homes should take in these COVID patients into their population, the language of it being not permissive but prescriptive, that they must do it, they shall do it. They're prohibited from testing these incoming patients from hospitals to see if they still have COVID. It was all in the memo. It was all came from the governor's office. And the governor seems to be disputing the testimony here. Let's go to this memo and find the excerpts that Elise Stefanik is talking about. So this is the staff memorandum that I just alluded to. We're starting at the bottom of page 6, finding the March 25 directive was approved by the New York State Executive Chamber, that being the governor's office, Andrew Cuomo's office at the time during the pandemic. Mr. Hutton, who was a staffer under Cuomo at this time, testified that the March 25th directive absolutely, the same words that Elise Stefanik used, received approval from the executive chamber prior to issuance. And there is a citation to the transcript of Mr. Hutton. It's on page 51 of that transcript. And if we go below here into page 7, we're going to see an excerpt from that testimony from August of 2024. Question: the executive chamber signs off on all health department guidance that was issued. Is that right? Answer from Mr. Hutton: in the pandemic, yes. Question: so for the record, the March 25th order did receive sign-off from the executive chamber. Again, that's Andrew Cuomo's office. Answer: yes, absolutely. It's the exact same language that Elise Stefanik used that Cuomo disputed. So Cuomo either doesn't know about this testimony or is intentionally lying about what his staffers said. Now, maybe he thought that Zucker said that and he couldn't find the passage from Zucker, the commissioner of the Department of Health. But it's clear that this testimony is in the possession of the committee and that what Stefanik represented was totally accurate.
It's pretty cut and dry.
As we go further down in the memo, keeping on page 7 here, similarly, Commissioner Zucker, Dr. Zucker, testified that all Department of Health guidance needed to be approved by the executive chamber. Question: do you agree with Ms. DeRosa, that's Melissa DeRosa, the former chief of staff of Andrew Cuomo, do you agree with her characterization of the department's practices on issuing guidance? Answer from Dr. Zucker: I would say that during the pandemic, everything ended up on the second floor. The second floor being Governor Cuomo's office. Question: can you elaborate on that? Answer: yeah, well, the second floor being the executive chamber, the governor's floor. Question: so it's... Answer: and there were times when we, the Department of Health, would say, where is that guidance? And it still hasn't been cleared from over on the second floor. Question: and when you say second floor, that is the governor's office. Sorry. Question: okay, would you presume that would include the governor himself being privy to? Answer: I can't answer how that process went. We knew things needed to be cleared, and sometimes they were legal issues, which Beth Garvey was involved, and other issues, obviously, the secretary to the governor, Melissa DeRosa, was the one who signed off on it. So again, Elise Stefanik was correct. Dr. Zucker testified that everything was cleared through Cuomo's office on the quote-unquote second floor.
This investigation found that you, former governor, and your most senior aides made a deliberate decision to exclude certain COVID-19 related nursing home deaths to hide and undercount the actual mortality rate in nursing homes. And for the public, Governor Cuomo changed the methodology of counting nursing home fatalities to exclude out-of-facility deaths, to undercount those. I want to ask...
So basically what that means, just so you know, is that when the governor's office was going through the numbers and reporting them to the CDC concerning COVID-19 fatalities, if a person was in a nursing home and was transferred out to a hospital and then passed in the hospital, that was not considered a nursing home death. That was considered under a different category. They did this to the point where I think over 50% of COVID deaths that originated in nursing homes were not counted initially. In other words, Cuomo was lying about the numbers.
What period of time were you negotiating for your book deal?
Congresswoman, if there was a fact in what you said...
No, I'm asking you a question.
I'm
asking you a question. What dates did you negotiate for your book deal? That is the question before you today.
Things are getting contentious now, right? So Cuomo is being asked about his multi-million-dollar book deal, which, by the way, he had to return the money from because he almost got impeached by the legislature in New York. Think about that for a second. The Democrat legislature was getting ready to impeach Andrew Cuomo for the book deal, for the COVID numbers, for the unwanted sexual touchings of staffers that was being reported. He ended up resigning and not being impeached, but that's the amount of pressure that Democrats had to put on him to get out of office. And now he's taking umbrage with all of this and he's getting all sanctimonious. He has no room to be sanctimonious about anything in this. He doesn't get the high road. He doesn't get to claim that people are playing politics. Facts are a stubborn thing. And in this case, all the facts are against Andrew Cuomo.
Question that
No.
asked.
The question that I asked.
My testimony says, during that time, did you have any discussions with the executive chamber regarding the need for guidance?
That's not the testimony I'm referring to.
Recall.
Absolutely
Not
was the
that I
answer.
recall.
Governor, absolutely. You're throwing your staff under the bus. You are culpable for this. My question to you is, when were you negotiating for your multi-million-dollar advance deal for your book as seniors were dying in nursing homes? That is the question in front of you.
You can't make up facts, Congresswoman.
You're the one making up facts. You're the one who undercounted nursing home deaths. You're the one who I want to ask right now. You apologize today, but there are families sitting here.
Do you see what Cuomo's doing? He's not taking responsibility for his own actions that have been found by multiple agencies, both state and federal now. He wants to quibble over testimony and go back and forth in some way, shape, or form, trying to vindicate himself here. There's no vindication here whatsoever. It's quite disgusting what he's doing in front of families of people who passed in nursing homes as a result of his March 2020 directive.
I want you to turn around, look them in the eye, and apologize, which you have failed to do. Will you do it?
This is not about political theater. It's
No,
about
this is
giving
about
answers.
accountability.
Why did 1.2 million Americans die? Why did more Americans die than any country on the globe?
You're the former governor who's disgraced under oath.
Why did you let the president lie to the people
This executive order was
a Trump whataboutism. That's what he's going for now. He's blaming Donald Trump on all this. The same Donald Trump that he praised back during the COVID-19 pandemic for all that he was doing for the People's Republic of New York.
Flashback.
I said, I put out my hand in partnership. I want to work with you. I'll be a good partner. I need your help. Let's do what we were elected to do. Let's fulfill our constitutional duty. And the president said yes. I believe he's sincere, more than just belief. He has acted on it, Rachel. I spoke to the Secretary of Defense today. I got a call from the White House team late last night, early this morning. I have the Army Corps of Engineers coming in here tomorrow. So I believe he's doing what he has to do, and I respect him for it.
End of flashback.
This is what political buffoons do, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in between. They go out there, and when their own neck is on the line, they turn on anyone and anything, especially partisan turnarounds. He goes from praising Trump to now blaming him for everything that he did under the sun. He's not taking his own accountability. He's refusing to apologize to the families in the gallery right now. How disgusting can this get?
Under your name, it was counter to CDC and CMS.
President Trump lie?
This is about those seniors, Governor. They deserve to hear from you in the eye that you apologize, that you were negotiating for a multi-million-dollar book deal. It is a disgrace. There is a reason why you were the former governor of New York State, and you will never hold elected office again. I yield back.
Now, there was some applause that I cut out from there, but really from Elise Stefanik's mouth to God's ears about Cuomo never holding office again. You got to understand that Cuomo is trying to make a political comeback here. We talked about that in the previous video that I highlighted. He interviewed with Anthony Scaramucci to try to justify his actions during the pandemic and try to earn forgiveness, all pointing towards a political comeback because he's looking to run for mayor of New York City next year. That's really what this is about for Andrew Cuomo. That's why he's fighting so hard for his reputation. He wants to make a political comeback because if he can get this scandal off his back, he can get back to good graces of Democrats and hold elective office again. But this wasn't the only female Republican Congresswoman to speak to Andrew Cuomo at this hearing. When we come back, Nicole Malliotakis is going to take her time, and her summary of events is so much better than anything else I can put out there. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor Cuomo, I'd planned a series of questions, but after reading your opinion piece in the Sunday's Daily News and hearing your testimony here today, I'll use my time to correct the half-truths and lies that insult New Yorkers.
Now, remember before the break when I talked about Cuomo trying to rehabilitate his public persona? That op-ed in the Sunday New York Daily News is probably part of that rehabilitation process. Just like that interview with Anthony Scaramucci that I highlighted in that video that we talked about earlier, that was also part of that rehabilitation process with an eye towards running for mayor in the People's Republic of New York City. Nicole Malliotakis is now going to dispel what she's calling half-truths delivered by Andrew Cuomo in that op-ed. Remember that discussion we had about credibility earlier, how Elise Stefanik's contentions can be backed up by the record, but Andrew Cuomo's could not? Keep that in mind when Nicole Malliotakis is talking about the governor's credibility and what he said in that op-ed.
You cite CMS data to claim New York had the 12th lowest death rate at the end of 2020. However, CMS began collecting data in mid-May, so the deaths when your deadly directive was in full force were not included. Your administration reported 6,000 deaths. The true toll was 11,400, nearly double. You assert your March 25th directive never mandated nursing homes to admit COVID-positive patients. This is false. Your directive very clearly says no resident shall be denied, and it prohibited COVID testing before admission.
That's in black and white in the directive that I've shown before on the channel. Nicole Malliotakis is right. That is prescriptive language that we talk about in the law. There is no discretion given to the facility in that directive to make decisions about COVID testing or about whether or not they can take in someone from a hospital who had been treated for COVID. They were mandated to do so. Cuomo denies that it was a mandate, pointing to other portions of the health law in New York, saying that they did have discretion. But the directive during the pandemic, this emergency time period, prescribed nursing homes to act a certain way. They didn't feel like they had discretion. Cuomo is hiding behind different aspects of the law that may not have been enforced or enforceable at the time due to the emergency of the pandemic in trying to justify not blaming him for what happened during the pandemic.
In your op-ed and again today, you claim that the directive mirrored CDC guidelines. This is also false. Both CMS and CDC use permissive language like can and should, not shall and must, and only if facilities could isolate and take precautions.
Do you see the difference between that language, the can and should versus the shall and must? This is something that they teach in law school all the time. The can and should allows discretion. So if an executive gives a directive saying that facilities can or should do this, that's giving them strong suggestion. But if they say shall or must, that's a directive with no wiggle room, no discretion. They must follow it. I'm sure you guys out there get the distinction.
Former CMS Administrator Seema Verma, former White House Dr. Deborah Birx, both testified that your actions violated those guidelines. CDC and CMS would never recommend prohibiting testing, yet your directive did, all while you were sending tests to the Hamptons for your family. And you also falsely claimed this directive was the standard across the country, even trying to hide behind Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's directive when Minnesota's guidance actually included caveats, precautions. It didn't prevent nursing homes from testing patients like your directive did.
Governor Cuomo's directive was so draconian that even other Democrats didn't follow it. It was against CDC guidance. It didn't give professionals, healthcare professionals, the wiggle room needed to keep doing testing. Why in a pandemic would you prohibit testing, for goodness sake? Especially amongst an environment and a population so vulnerable, like seniors in a nursing home. This is why Andrew Cuomo is completely irredeemable. He's actually defending this behavior.
You claimed that the March 25th directive was to protect hospital capacity, but you had the U.S. Navy comfort ship and the Javits Center deployed, and it was remain underutilized. You said that nursing homes could still have denied entry to those they could not safely care for under existing law, but you suspended that very regulation in a March 7th, 2020 executive order stripping nursing homes of that ability to deny admission.
And now you see the full scheme coming together. There were other directives and executive orders, hundreds of them during this time period, during the pandemic, where Cuomo suspended normal order and normal regulations and enforced his own draconian rule over what happens during the pandemic. So nursing homes couldn't, as a matter of law, normally act the way they would under the regulations because Cuomo changed those regulations under this emergency situation and did so in such a way that it was contrary to CDC guidance. And again, he's saying that he did nothing wrong and is going on a rehabilitation tour to try to get back into power. Is this someone you want back in power that acted like this?
And on top of all of that, you say New York didn't undercount nursing home deaths, yet your chief of staff directed that the deaths of nursing home residents outside the facility not be counted. And later, exactly 1 month after the New York Attorney General exposed that you underreported the nursing home deaths by 50%, your chief told Democrat lawmakers in New York that she admitted that the true toll was withheld to avoid attracting prosecutors. That, Governor Cuomo, is a cover-up.
Absolutely, 100%. This was a cover-up. And amazingly, this wasn't the cover-up that took down Cuomo. There had to be, on top of this, a sexual unwanted touching scandal. That's the problem with the People's Republic of New York. It took not just this completely egregious scandal, but had to have the cherry on top of this unwanted touching of staffers that ultimately forced out Cuomo. This is why I call him irredeemable. This is damaging to his legacy, a legacy he must now rehabilitate if he wants to get back into public office. And those of you living in the People's Republic of New York City, if you vote this man in as mayor next year in 2025, then you're enabling this irredeemable buffoon. And frankly, there's nothing more I can say to you to help you save yourselves from the state that the city is in.
You've tried to blame everyone, including the CDC, the CMS, nursing home operators, nursing home staff, and unidentified low-level DOH staffer that supposedly sent out this directive. And of course, President Trump. But the buck stops with you. You testified that you don't know who signed off on this March 25th directive, and your DOH commissioner did not either, you say, despite both of your names being at the top of the letterhead. In the closed-door testimony, both you and your chief of staff told the committee it was some mid-level staffer at the Department of Health. But the commissioner and the deputy commissioner of the Department of Health said it was your executive chamber that approved it. You did not have a name on June 11th. Do you have one today? Who signed off on this directive? Was it you?
Let me try to...
Was it the Lieutenant Governor, Kathy Hochul? Was it your chief of staff, Melissa? No, it's a yes or no. I mean, was it you? Was it Kathy Hochul? Was it your chief of staff, Melissa DeRosa? Or maybe it was that communist spy. Maybe it was that communist Chinese spy, Linda Sun, who worked in your administration.
Well, maybe...
So Cuomo still doesn't know who signed off on an order from his office. First of all, why is he having staffers sign off on executive orders like this? The buck does stop with him, as Nicole Malliotakis says here. But he doesn't know if he doesn't say he signed it. He's passing the buck. He's throwing staffers under the bus, an unnamed staffer right now. And I love how Nicole Malliotakis brings up Linda's son, the person of Chinese origin, this Chinese spy allegedly, who was committing espionage for the People's Republic of China within the People's Republic of New York. We talked about that in the previous video as well. That's going to appear in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Nicole Malliotakis lays it out perfectly. The rest of this section, I'm going to put this video up in the description so you can see the rest of the exchange here. There's no further utility to it, but I think you get the picture of why I'm calling Andrew Cuomo irredeemable. I am so happy. Nicole, by the way, I've known Nicole Malliotakis since 2002 when she was working on campaigns. I've watched her grow through the Republican Party, up through the state assembly, into the U.S. Congress. It's nice to see a good person moving up the ranks the way that this is. She isn't by no ways a buffoon. She is smart. She is skillful. She is practical. She is everything you want in a member of Congress, which is why I'm happy to call her a friend. What she did here in this video, this dressing down of Andrew Cuomo, needs to get out to everyone. So please share this video out to everyone you know, especially anyone you know in the People's Republic of New York City, who are going to have to be confronted with Andrew Cuomo possibly on the ballot next year. I can't believe I'm saying that at this point. And I'm hoping that the more we spread this out there about how irredeemable Andrew Cuomo is, that maybe we can stop this particular egregious, irredeemable buffoon from getting back into office. I hope you help me in this mission. And more importantly, I want to know what you think about all this. Let's get into the comments together. And as always, like and share the video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. Let's talk about this video in the comments today, and then I'll see you tonight, live, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, behind enemy lines, as we talk about the debate between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. I hope to see you guys then talking about this video, that video, and any other video concerning the shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in Dumbmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.